Hello GSV peeps, Dangly Bob here, and welcome back to another COVID version of the Kerbal space program. Why is it COVID? Because the whole family's home all the time, so we're all having to try and work around each other. So in the background you have my daughter practicing her violin, very quietly. And in the other room we have my wife and my other daughter sort of sorting through what they're going to do for schooling at home next week. In the meantime, I'm playing Kerbal Space Program, and we are on the next mission. I can't remember which number mission this is, but this is the rendezvous in around the orbit one. I'll put the actual mission in the description down below. And the problem with this first bit is we have a bit of a time scale problem. It wants it done within 20 minutes worth of game time, and as you can see, we are already sort of 2 minutes into game time, although I haven't been talking for 2 minutes. And that is because I'm still struggling how to present these things. Just get some heating effects there. And so I'm playing these back at about 3 times the speed, just to sort of take some of the drudgery out of the more boring bits. Just letting go of the first stage there. And as you can see now, we have a bit of a problem with stability. We have to take the apoapsis right up to the required orbit because of this time constraint problem. We have 20 minutes to do it, as I said, and it wants to try and do it in 10. I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to do it in 10, but should be able to do it within 20 fairly easily. If I take the apoapsis straight up to, as you can see here, the required orbit, and then zoom, warp round to the apoapsis, and then take the periapsis right out. The problem with these missions I'm finding is that if you have a problem and you have a solution where you're going to build something into the spacecraft to overcome that problem, you don't have that luxury now. You're given with what you're given, and you have to cure the problems, solve the problems, and cure the problems. A bit of a COVID terminology there. We are given with what we're given, and you don't sometimes know what you're given until you actually come across the set problem within the scenario. Waffling here, rambling, as I intended to do. As you see, I've come around to the apoapsis. I'm just going to burn out now the periapsis till it meets the required orbit. And you see game time now is up at about 14 minutes. So say it's very difficult. I can't see how I'm going to do this within 10 minutes. I need to trim 4 minutes off. It's probably okay, but you can see now high orbit's achieved, so now we have put that first part of the aircraft in. What we have to do now is launch the second bit. See, up here, there's no time constraint on this, but it does want us to come into a lower orbit in order to achieve that rendezvous, which is, to be honest, what I would do anyway. My preference is always to go for a lower orbit and then catch the item up. I haven't really looked at or launching at a set time because there's no time limit. I thought, we'll just launch anyway and then we'll catch it up. As I say, this isn't quite how I build an aircraft, a spacecraft aircraft for this sort of mission. I would perhaps put a shielded dock on the top. But, as I said, we're given what we're given. Luckily we're given some RCS, and we seem to have quite a bit of monopropellant there when I look at the monopropellant levels in a bit anyway. So, there we go, that's the mission thing come up. We don't have quite as much fuel as you thought we might have. So I have to be a little bit clever in what I do. So we're just going to put ourselves into a standard orbit. Say that's the orbit I'm required to have, that yellow line there, which is about sort of 50 kilometres below the orbit of the rendezvous. I don't know whether we're going to have enough fuel for this. Well, I do, because I played this game and I said this is post, but let's just pretend, shall we? So, I can always come back and then try a different orbital insertion period, but getting rid of that first stage there, coming back into the second stage. We've got about 2000 dV to get up there, so that's easily done. We're in the thinner space of the atmosphere, about sort of 50,000 meters here, just coming up. and our apoapsis at the moment is, I think, at about 100,000, so about just under halfway to what we need to do. So I'm going to put a... Yeah, I'm slightly confused because I've got a manoeuvre node there for the other aircraft still. It's perhaps just need to swap to the other aircraft and delete that. But once we've got our 100 apoapsis, perhaps the better way of doing it rather than continually burning the existing apoapsis out is burn the periapsis out to that sort of 250 mark. Now we know there's a little bit of leeway, it doesn't have to be exact. I'm probably a waste of fuel trying to get it exact, but that comes under just under 1500 meters per second, and we have about 1900, I believe. My preview screen's a little bit on the fuzzy side there, so I'm just going to burn prograde once we get to that point there. Just burn it out, and then hopefully have enough fuel left to burn the periapsis out, and then we'll worry about doing the rendezvous point. So this burn is a little bit on the long side. It's about a minute burn, getting rid of most of my my weight here. Again, I perhaps would have made a slightly lighter weight aircraft and managed to perhaps ditch some of the or put some of the monopropellant thrusters actually on this last stage and got rid of that, so I'm not having to thrust around this. I don't know how heavy this engine is, we'd have to go into the VAB and find out. Just want to have a quick chat about the while we're burning that out. Yes, I was rather hoping by speeding up the video clip to 300 times we'll be able to keep the original soundtrack and maybe some of the sound effects with it, but core videos sort of doesn't work like that. I want to sped the track up, but the soundtrack became desynced. Now I could revert it back and separate the track out. Okay, I'm just doing the burn now. Get that periapsis up to there, or the apoapsis as it is now. Now we'll zoom around to the apoapsis, warp around there, and just figure out how much. Just add a quick manoeuvre in there. Burn this out. Actually, it's very, very little there, so that's fine. So, got about 450 dV left. We're going to use about 100 maybe to get out to there. So it'll leave us about 300 to do the rendezvous with, which might be a bit tight, but our relative speeds are not going to be that much different. About 100 maybe, so 300 should give me enough and a little bit in hand. So as I come around to the node, this the probe core I've got on this aircraft, or spacecraft, why don't I keep calling it aircraft, is actually relatively easy. It's got all the possible nodes I could possibly need, so you can get it to face the manoeuvre node, prograde, retrograde, normal, anti-normal, radial, anti-radial, etc., as well as two targets and anti-target, so towards the target and anti-target, which would be really useful when we come to doing the docking manoeuvre. So there we are, in orbit, absolutely brilliant. Right, the next thing to do is to figure out what or where I'm going to do this manoeuvre node. As we cut screen there, I fiddled around a little bit, and found actually, yeah, I could do it. I didn't have to wait too many orbits. I could get a relatively cheap and easy rendezvous there, and again we can point towards the manoeuvre node. Warp towards it. I have to do that manually. I think the settings are it stops 3 minutes ahead of it. Useful for the bigger warps, but this one here is a 1 second warp. And actually, what I should have done is derated the engines quite a bit, but never mind, we're there. And you can see you've got about well, just as I cancelled the node there, it jumped from about 6.5 to 7.5 kilometres, a little bit on the big side. But actually, looking at it, it's because we're not quite in the same plane So I'm just going to burn, and I can never remember whether these are anti-normal or normal, which one's which. I want to Google it and find out, but I'm going to burn one way or the other just to bring that separation down to about 2 kilometers. Don't want to get too close because I'm not going to use any automated docking things here, though I don't know whether it would let me or not. I'm going to just try and do it by hand, and that's or by eye, and to do that it's easier to do it from about 2 kilometers out, not too close, because you end up wasting a lot of fuel trying to maneuver around an aircraft, spacecraft. I wouldn't get the terminology right. So just completed that burn, and now we can warp around to the intersect point and have a look at what it is we're doing. We're catching the aircraft up, so theoretically we're around there. This is what sort of threw me slightly, warped around. Now I can never get this completely right. It looks like the rendezvous craft is actually overtaking us, so by burning towards target and away from target, we're getting a speed relative to the target. So because by the looks of things here we've got, it is going faster than us, even though we're on the inside and we should be catching up, though because of the perhaps it's a rendezvous problem where actually I've slowed ourselves down in order to catch, move the rendezvous up, and now I need to speed up to it. That's what it is. I haven't explained it very well, but yes, because I've slowed the aircraft down to move on out, I'm just going to, as I said, if we go retrograde, anyway, slow the aircraft down relative to the aircraft. Now I can point to target, just give it a little squirt on the main engine, and now as we come, nearly messed it up by using time warp there. I've messed it up again by overcooking it, but perhaps it's about time now to actually turn the RCCS off and do it by RCCS and not actually by main engine, which this engine's quite powerful for what I actually use here. I'm going to put something myself in. Now, the other aircraft here, I haven't actually spotted where I'm just going to sit here. Again, this is exactly what I said I didn't want to do, but I'm going to get myself down to a 0 degree relative speed. I'm going to wipe that little aerial out. Not too sure what that aerial is, why it's there. But that nose cone there actually hid the docking port, and now I know why we have a long tube on the docking port. Is because for some reason they've left I didn't put eject that cowling as well as the nose cone. Notice that nose cone had little rockets on it as well. Very, very nice, but not necessarily needed. Now I can't point the rendezvous aircraft or spacecraft towards me, but I can point this one towards the target, making sure I'm 1, controlling from our docking port, 2, targeting their docking port. I can now use RCCS and just tickle myself around to the other spacecraft, which I've put on prograde just to hold it in position, make sure it doesn't roll. Now while we're close together, you can sort of give orders or commands to both aircraft and they'll follow them. I think it's 2 kilometers distance that sort of stops happening, but at this point here I'm just tickling it up and doing this mainly by eye, but by using the nav ball and trying to get that prograde marker actually spot on the target, we should get it in the middle, but doing this mainly by eye again, relatively easy, just nudge it in there. The electronic contacts between the docking ports brought me together nicely without having to worry too much about alignment. I suppose these are 2 fairly relatively small spacecraft, so it wanted me to dock now and have a look, but now actually after I'd sort of have a look at the damage on the other aircraft, the other spacecraft is in, but actually as soon as I undocked and blatted away, it then sort of said, right, okay, you've got to get back in because the other spacecraft's going to start exploding. I have a bit of problem trying to find the docking port in under this cowling here to actually undock, but managed to get away without too much problem while it starts exploding away. Just give it a little bit of a nudge backwards, waiting for a big explosion but not getting one. So looking at the screen now, what I need to do now is land a Kerbal, and actually it wants me to land relatively close to the KSC, so that isn't too difficult to do. There's a little bit of jiggery pokery to do, and basically if I burn on the opposite side and try and bring my periapsis down so I'm splashing down close to Kerbal orbit, it won't be too much of a problem. So again, just put a manoeuvre node at the apoapsis, bring the periapsis down so it's comes down to within the atmosphere. We're going to burn retrograde obviously here, and we can warp around to this point of the manoeuvre node and then do a burn. The problem I've got is I've only got 170 dV left, which isn't too much of a problem. It's actually use what I'm trying to do here is perhaps burn the rest of the remaining 30 meters per second off using the monopropellant RCS, which is possible to do. See, I'm down to 15 already. It takes a little bit of time to do. Remember, this is being played back at 3 times speed, so we just sit there with the H key pressed. Now I'm down at the right. I've pretty much completed that manoeuvre node. So the only thing left to do is probably inject the main engine and probably eject this cowling here. Why it didn't do it as a oner, I don't know, but perhaps it wanted to keep them as 2 separate stages. So you could eject the main engine if you wanted to and still have some manoeuvrability, but we're going to warp around to the point where we enter the atmosphere. Now this is where I've sort of made a bit of a misjudgment. As we enter the atmosphere, I'd forgotten actually we will slow down even more, and when we slow down, once we start getting the heating effects up, you'll see that actually the point I thought I was going to splash down wasn't going to be the point we were actually going to splash down, and the more I slow down, the more that point comes away from our required landing. So luckily I'd created an autosave, and we could splash down here, but I don't know whether that would just give us a mission fail. So doing a quick preload or reload of our autosave position, I'm thinking, right, I don't want that manoeuvre node to be there. I can bring it round, and I reckon about a quarter of the way around the globe is the way to go. It means I don't necessarily have to come down necessarily as far, but that's felt about right to me. So walk a bit closer to the node. Again, just burn off all our main engine. Retrograde. Easily bring our periapsis down to within the atmosphere. The only problem I noticed here then was that actually just burning off what we had, now using burning off the RCCS, is that was I going to enter enough atmosphere to bring that landing point or the splashdown point close enough to the landing zone. So at the moment I'm just burning a lot of retrograde on the monopropellant RCS, is this going to be close? At this point here, I don't know whether I'm burning. If this is efficient, I could pop the engine off and then just burn with those top thrusters there. Or I keep that engine portion on and burn with all of them. In the end, I think I decided to decouple that and just lose that engine, because I expect that's quite a bit of the weight. And just use half of the RCCS thrusters available to slow myself down even further. But obviously they're only half as effective. And looking at the speed, even though I'm burning RCCS here, it doesn't look like I'm actually coming down. The speed is not exactly coming down. In fact, the speed looks like it's coming up, but that's because it's trying to burn to the existing manoeuvre marker I've got, and I'm ignoring that at the moment and just trying to knock speed off. The speed is coming down. If you look at it, my orbital speed is now 1726. It's coming down slowly, but that is very, very slow. But looking at the splashdown point predicted at the moment, it's the middle of the ocean, and I don't think that's going to be too far off. So I get bored and decide just to ditch the rest of the RCCS anyway. And now we're just going to warp around, see where that takes us. So speed is going to start increasing now anyway, but once we hit that atmosphere, so you see, pretty much I couldn't need to bother with the RCCS. We lost about sort of 50 or so meters per second, but we're back up to 2,350. But now we're going to slow down fairly rapidly, and from this point here, it looks like I'm going to overshoot. There we go. I don't have a heat shield, and I don't have, but you know, the capsule survives relatively well. I shot the chutes, or prepped the chutes, what I call armed the chutes, ages and ages ago. That would be the other thing to do, would just be keep on the trajectory, not shoot the chutes. But I'm going to be shooting the chutes. But I'm going to be well inside of the window or the landing zone. In fact, Jebediah and Bob there could virtually walk home from here. Not suggesting they do, because they're Kerbals and have little short legs. As we physic warp down to the ground, because this takes a long time, especially if you're only coming down at sort of 4 or 5 meters per second, we can actually get away with probably one of these parachutes. Don't even really need the drone, but we prefer to come down a little bit safe. Could cut one away if I wanted to speed it up, but no, why? Come on. And actually what I'm trying to do here is take a screenshot, get rid of the overlay, but end up pressing a load of F keys and not really doing what I want. There we go. So that's my screenshot. And there was mission success. 3,506 points. It seemed to have a silver award, but as well. Thanks a lot for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Please subscribe if you want to see some more. Let me know what you think in the downstairs, and we'll see you all in the next one.